Another fresh edition of your breakfast show, Leadership Television, Inside Nigeria. Today is Tuesday, January 14, 2025, and my name is Winifred Webo, your host on the program. On this first segment of the show, as we normally do on the program, we like to see what the papers are offering on their cover pages. Starting with Nigeria's most influential newspaper, Leadership. Let's go there. Let's see what Leadership has on its cover this Tuesday. Leadership says knocks over planned NASS zonal offices. Knocks over planned National Assembly zonal offices. Stakeholders kick says it's constitutional aberration, waste of resources, and CSOs is not in Nigeria's interest. These are kickers to the leading story today on Leadership. Knocks over planned NASS zonal offices. Other stories on the cover of Leadership: 789,000 pupils get free school uniforms in Kano. The story runs on page 14 of Leadership newspaper. Of course, this is in bid to reduce out-of-school children in the north and across Nigeria. 789,000 pupils get free school uniforms in Kano. Kudos to the governor. Military airstrikes never targeted as civilians, coming from Chief of Defense Staff. Still a developing story coming from what transpired at Zamfara. Terrorists kill 40 Bono farmers, page 8 of Leadership today. And the new Super Eagles coach says, Eric Chain, my focus is World Cup qualification. The story is on page 23 of Leadership. And of course, we also have his picture as he's been decorated by the president of the Nigerian Football Federation, NFF, Ibrahim Musa Gusso, and the chairman of the National Sports Commission, NSC, Shehu Diko, during the unveiling of the 37th coach of the Super Eagles. Is actually the 37th coach of the Super Eagles, Melian Eric Chell. Congratulations to him, and we're hoping and all turns out for good and be able to get Super Eagles qualified for the World Cup. Moving ahead, real reason Mudashiru Obasa was impeached as Lagos Speaker is a story that trended yesterday. Of course, for you to find out the reason, you have to log on to the website of Leadership and or move to page 7 where the story continues. Real reason Mudashiru Obasa was impeached as Lagos Speaker. And on the business bus, we have federal government mum over Lagos Calabar Highway budgetary allocation. Given the 2025 budget, it was discovered that the Lagos Calabar Coastal Highway does not have budgetary allocation. That takes us to the stories above the mindset of Leadership. Jada, one of the awardees of Leadership conferences and awards, says, I will be good ambassador of Leadership. Minority leader says coast clear for tax reform bids in Senate. The story is on page 18 of Leadership. Let's move to page 3 of the paper where we have the prominent page, our stand. Today's stand is on HMPV and the need for strengthened surveillance. HMPV means human metapneumovirus, HMPV, and the need for strengthened surveillance. We stand today on Leadership. From the stand, we move to the back page where we have THISDAY column with Abdurrahman Aliyu. Ali is writing on, is partying the new economic indicator? Is a question is asking on today's THISDAY column. And in quote, he says, for now, the truth remains that the economic indicators we should be focused on are not the number of parties happening in Lagos or how many tickets are sold for concerts. Of course, it's a question you find answers to when you log in to read that THISDAY column. Is partying the new economic indicator? From the back page, still on back page, we have Ghana must go. It's actually a comic relief on the paper. On the back page, it says Tinubu arrives Abu Dhabi, and the question Ghana must go asks, with how many people? With how many people? Well, that's a question you have to find answers to when you log in to Leadership website for more of the stories. www.leadership.ng. From Leadership, we move over to the next paper we have on our menu this Tuesday, and that is Vanguard. Vanguard says 21 million housing gap, 5 trillion naira needed for 2.7 million new houses annually for 10 years. 21 million housing gap, 5 trillion naira needed for 2.7 million new houses annually for 10 years. And the kickers, abandoned housing projects all over Nigeria. Developers blame insecurity for abandoned housing projects. 21 million more houses needed. Houses being built for those who already have homes. Federal government planning to deliver 50,000 units. Minister. And Ashimolowo says what government should do. These are riders, kickers to the main headline story today on Vanguard. 21 million housing gap, 5 trillion naira needed for 2.7 million new houses annually for 10 years. Leading story on Vanguard this Tuesday. Federal government raises inmates feeding to 1,125 naira per day. Misconduct, PSC okays dismissal, prosecution of 2 senior police officers. The story is on page 6 of Vanguard. Misconduct, PSC okays dismissal, prosecution of 2 senior police officers. PDP crisis, Anyanwu defies court order, resumes office. Is resumption of fortunate embarrassing, says party scribe. Coast clear for tax reform bills in Senate, say Abba Moro, FIRS chairman. Legal action against unruly Ibom air passenger to prevent recurrence. NCAA. And in sports, like leadership capture 8, chair promises an attack-minded Super Eagles. That takes us to the stories about the masthead of Vanguard. Dangote, Port Harcourt, 7 other refineries need 770,500 barrels per day. Dangote, Port Harcourt, 7 other refineries need 770,500 barrels per day. The story runs on page 25 of Vanguard. Of course, Dangote alone has a refining capacity of 650,000 barrels per day. 2025 budget, no end in sight to national grid collapse from federal government. Terrorists kill 15 Borno, Nasarawa. Federal government to blacklist 18 banks owing telcos almost 200 billion naira on USSD. And that concludes front headline stories on Vanguard this Tuesday. For more, log on to the website of Vanguard. From Vanguard, we move over to the next paper on our menu, and that is THISDAY. THISDAY stories. Today, Tuesday, says CDS, that is Chief of Defense Staff, terrorists getting foreign funding to continue destabilization of Nigeria. Says there is need for more proactive approach to security challenges across Nigeria. Military honors outstanding officers at 2025 Armed Forces Remembrance Day. In clinically plotted coup, Lagos speaker impeached while returning home from US. Lawmakers say they've had enough of him. His deputy Moji Miranda takes over. Assembly clerk suspended, replaced in acting capacity. I'll take that again. Trending story since yesterday. In clinically plotted coup, Lagos speaker impeached while returning home from US. Lawmakers say they've had enough of him. His deputy Moji Miranda takes over. Assembly clerk suspended, replaced in acting capacity. And that takes us to the stories about the mindset of this day. Bagudu upbeat on 36.35 trillion naira revenue target in 2025 appropriation bill. CBN schedules 5 MPC meetings for 2025. First meeting holds February 17 to 18. Tax reform bills, consultations with stakeholders yielding positive results, says FIRS board. And that also concludes the review of front headline stories on this day, this Tuesday. For more, log on to the website of THISDAY newspaper. As we move to the next paper we have on our menu, and that is The Guardian. The Guardian says USSD codes may become inactive in 14 days over bank's 250 billion naira debt. Same story on this day. Though the CBN had stated that payment agreements, whether as lump sums or installments, must be finalized by January 2, 2025, with full settlement due by July 2, 2025, telcos are now backed by the NCC to suspend USSD services over poor commitments from 18 banks. Because we have the picture of the telcos captured, illustrated beneath that leading story. USSD codes may become inactive in 14 days over bank's 250 billion naira deaths. Other stories gracing the cover of The Guardian: federal government okays 1,125 naira daily feeding allowance for correctional inmates. ISWAP kills 40 farmers in Borno despite paying levies. Last youth pensioners cry out to Sanwo-Olu over 31 months unpaid pension. Clark sees suspension of NGF as report exposes state's shortcomings. Lagos broadcast stations: NLC protest non-payment of minimum wage. Ohaneze, Ikwere groups threaten protest over Mbata's emergence. And that takes us to the story just beneath the masthead of The Guardian. Lagos Assembly alleges infractions against Obasa, elects first female speaker. Tax reform bill set for passage as Senate FIROS clear key hurdles. NASS probes alleged 4 trillion naira lost to waivers by agencies. These are headline stories gracing the cover of The Guardian this Tuesday, January 14, 2025. For continuation of these headline stories, you log on to the website of The Guardian, www.guardian.ng. That also concludes review of The Guardian. Let's move to the last paper we have on our menu, and that is Nigerian Tribune. Let's have Nigerian Tribune on our screen. Nigerian Tribune says no guarantee yet there will be no more great collapse. Prime Minister is also gracing the cover of other papers we've read before this. Says system crushed only 8 times. So it said systems crashed only 8 times in 2024. Insecurity, vandalism, poor infrastructure remain major threats to grid. Ministry plans solar light CCTV for highways. Senate hits discourse again, wants privatization reversed. These are kickers to the legal story on Nigerian Tribune this Tuesday. No guarantee yet there will be no more grid collapse. Power Minister says system crashed only 8 times in 2024. Insecurity, vandalism, poor infrastructure remain major threats to grid. Ministry plans solar light CCTV for highways. Senators hit discourse again, wants privatization reversed. These are kickers to that living story on Power issue. Police arrest gospel singer caught with girlfriend's head in Nasarawa. Former college registrar found dead at home in Plateau. The story runs on page 11 of Nigerian Tribune. Former college registrar found dead at home in Plateau. Ibadan Stampede court admits Naomi Oyenusi, principal, for 10 million naira bail, 2 sureties each. Revenue. Now review of front headline stories on Nigerian Tribune. This review of front headline stories on Nigerian Tribune this Tuesday. For more, log on to the website of Nigerian Tribune. It's on this note we conclude the first half of this breakfast show this Tuesday morning. Don't go away. Stay tuned for the part 2 of the program.
Get ready for the Leadership Awards and Conference 2024. Join us as we celebrate excellence across various fields, honoring those who've made remarkable impacts. Award categories include Person of the Year, Quinquennial Award for Governance and Infrastructure, Governors of the Year, Business Person of the Year, and many more. Stay updated by following us on social media and visiting our website, leadership.ng. For sponsorship and inquiries, contact us today. Leadership Award and Conference 2024, celebrating excellence, inspiring the future. Get ready for the Leadership Awards and Conference 2024. Join us as we celebrate excellence across various fields, honoring those who've made remarkable impacts. Award categories include Person of the Year, Quinquennial Award for Governance and Infrastructure, Governors of the Year, Business Person of the Year, and many more. Stay updated by following us on social media and visiting our website, leadership.ng. For sponsorship and inquiries, contact us today. Leadership Award and Conference 2024, celebrating excellence, inspiring the future.
Leadership TV for God and country.
Be part of our brand. Leadership for God and Country.
Yes, you're welcome back. The program is Inside Nigeria on Leadership Television. My name is Winifred Ugbebo once again, your host on the program. Of course, we have our guest in the studio, is Benedict Agunoye. Thank you so much once again.
Good morning.
It's a pleasure to have you on the program.
My pleasure.
Yes. We just discussed front headline stories of some select newspapers, including Nigeria's foremost newspaper, Leadership. And of course, let's go with Leadership's leading story before we talk about the developing story, which started trending yesterday, talking about the ousting of Nigeria's longest serving speaker, Obasa. But before we go there, let's talk about planned National Assembly zonal offices. How realistic is this, considering the fact that Nigerians have so much to contend with presently, with hardship, hunger over the land, and the National Assembly is planning zonal offices? What happened when to State House of Assembly in some of these states, in all the states, not some of these states?
Well,
Is that not waste of profligacy, waste of resources?
for me, the Senate comprises of 3 senators from each state, which to an extent was meant to describe equality of state. So do the Senate or does National Assembly need zonal offices? I disagree. They don't need zonal offices because their job out there is supposed to be monitoring and oversight. When you are going for oversight, you shouldn't be an army of occupation. So you don't need an Enugu office, for instance. If you are in charge of works, there is a Federal Ministry of Works office in Enugu where whatever meeting you need to hold in Enugu can be done. And your job is more of, okay, what are the jobs being done in this zone? What level of completion are they? Go on the field and compare the load. If you ask me, we don't need, because you first, the buildings or whatever structure come in as capital expenditure now, and then next year, they become more of recurring. And so why are we keeping building things that are not adding value, that are not producing, and we are adding them to the cost year in, year out? So for me, zonal offices for National Assembly is a total waste of revenue and resources of the nation and needless duplication of services and assignments.
All right. Now, still on the National Assembly, they've been caused that in a parliamentary or unitary system, there is only the lower house of Reps that is supposed to function. And of course, they have been caused clamor, and Nigerians say that the expenses of the National Assembly is just too much, considering what each lawmaker takes. Although that was the bone of contention, controversy since. So do you share in that thought? Because so many efforts have been made into it that they should reduce, and bet it has not gone to light. They still budget for themselves, and the wages keep increasing, even though the average Nigerian can't even survive the present reality.
To a large extent, if you ask me, right, it's not the issue of whether we have a bicameral or unicameral. Whether it's in the UK or in the US, we've seen bicameral system.
Yes, that is the most
what we, however, need to look at carefully is presidential system is not our culture. So I will continue to insist that we need to go to some form of parliamentary that makes the job of the legislators part-time, not full-time. So if it becomes part-time like it is in the UK and in some other client, you will discover that the cost of governance will necessarily go down. When you don't come for meetings, when you don't show for your job, you will also not get paid. Not when the salary is fixed. So whether you are in Dubai or in US or in some ministry pursuing contract for your private company, your salary and allowances will continue to go.
Just in what you just pointed out, there seems to be a contradiction, because if you go through the list of their wages, they still collect sitting allowances, and these are people that still collect salary is fixed at the end of the month. Yeah, they still collect sitting allowance. Don't you think there's a contradictory somewhere? Or a contradiction, sorry.
That's why we said, basically, they should be part-time. In which case there will be no salary.
There will be salary.
They will only be paid allowances. So rather than dissipating energy on whether we need bicameral or unicameral, no, we need to do a system change. Let's actually campaign and discuss with the nation. Let's have a referendum. Should we continue with this presidential system that abuses our culture and tradition, or do we take some form of parliamentary that agree with who we are? Every culture in Nigeria, the over 300 tribes, have one form of parliamentary system or the other in place. Presidential system is not in our culture. And that's why for 25 years, we have run it, we have grappled with it, and we have not been able to improve the system effectively because it disagrees with culture and tradition. Fela would always tell us when he was alive that who is the government teacher? Culture and tradition. So when you do something that your teacher cannot cope with, when you are not learning from your teacher, there is no way you are going to make progress as far as being academic things are concerned. And sometimes you say, oh, we have experience. No, experience is the worst enemy of learning. Just as religion is the worst enemy of God.
Thank you so much. Yes, before we started discussing on the National Assembly and its proposed plan for zonal offices, I just made mention of what transpired in Lagos yesterday. The longest serving speaker of ASA was impeached, and of course, like THISDAY, the way THISDAY puts it, it's a clinically plotted coup. Lagos speaker impeached while returning home from US. What happened? Of course, I read that there were reports to even reconcile them even when the President Tinubu was in Lagos, but it just couldn't be solved.
Well, I think the Lagos case is simple. One, I don't think it's the longest serving. The speaker before him also spent 10 years. And I think there should be a speaker somewhere in the country that has done 12 or thereabout, I think in the northeast. So basically, what you will see in this case is very simple. It only buttresses that fact that power is transient. Right? And then it shows us exactly that, look, it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter the status you have attained. If you are human, you are finite. You are not absolute, and you are relative. That means you are not God. But it's only God that is a finite, absolute, and non-relative being. Every other man revolves within the frame and the space that they have been given. So what he has been shown is to let him know that you cannot be larger than life. Yes, we can talk of immediate causes. If you come to, okay, they said they have removed the clerk or suspend the clerk, which is single-handedly employed. So to a large extent, you will see that those who were blaming him or accusing him of high-handedness possibly have a point. There have been issues of mismanagement of funds here and there. Those are also there. Of course, we can then also talk about what you call the remote causes. Remote causes would include, yes, does he have the right to aspire to be governor? I will say yes. Lagos West, in the recent past, have not produced. In fact, I don't think Lagos West Senatorial District has ever produced the governor of Lagos State. So basically, therefore, if anybody from the West is aspiring for that seat, it is right. But out of your aspiration does not mean you should be insulting to anybody. If you need to lead the people, you need to understand them. You must look beyond what is your own. So when there are elders in the Southwest, elders are given prime place. And so if you are seen as disrespectful, if you are seen as arrogant, it doesn't matter the powers that you have. One of the things people want to do is to cut you to size. And I think that has been what is at play in Lagos.
Thank you so much. Now, another developing issue is still on tax reform bills, and because all the papers we have now many, and those that within review publicly have it on their cover as National Assembly resumes today. Tax reform bills top agenda. What are we going to be having? Because we did see in some papers, minority leader says coast is clear for tax reform bills in Senate. Are we going to be having gas boost in Senate today and the National Assembly over this tax reform bills?
Well, clearly,
What are your permutations?
for me, I think that the tax reform bill is a necessity. Now again, there has been a recess. Recess gives people opportunity to hear alternative opinions.
Yes.
At the student union level, I've been a clerk of the house in my university, and I do realize that when the tension is high and the house seems so divided, when you call for a 30-minute recess, when the people come back, the tension clears out. Why? Because on the floor, I don't want to hear your point, I want to just marshal my point. You want to marshal your own. Now, there are mid people who can reach you, who can reach me. During the recess, they are able to discuss what are your fears.
But however,
what are my
don't
fears,
forget that
and then put it together.
If I have to interject, don't forget that even during this period that National Assembly they were on break, a region that has been vociferous against the tax reform bills has still maintained its stance that they were not going to back that.
Yeah, the recess.
Is anything going to change?
The recess gives you an opportunity to understand what the issues are. Yeah. The fact that now, I think it was in Babangida regime that he would always talk about the concept of the vocal minority and the silent majority. The fact that some people are not talking doesn't mean that they do not understand the issues. So what we need to put on the table is that between when they left for recess in December and now, there has been engagement. There has been more important people. Some governors have already changed position. The likelihood that the senators from those states will change. You don't need 100% for the purpose of passing a bill. Minority must have their way, must have their say. Majority will have their way. So I want to believe that if all the clause and all the discussions that have been held are put into consideration and the bill is appropriately presented, the likelihood is that that bill will pass. Yes, there will be some opposition, but again, even if as much as 36 of the senators are against it, by our constitution, 73 is still even enough to pass. And I think at some point he even talks about maybe 2/3 of people present and voting. So the governors, some governors have shifted ground. Some people have come to understand the story better. And like we would always say, it's just like when you say state police or this or that. People look at privileges and try to dodge responsibilities. The tax reform bill is putting responsibility ahead. And some governors are not ready for that responsibilities. So from distance, they want to like say, no, we don't want it. In fact, they don't want it discussed because when you discuss it, it will become obvious that there are responsibilities that they ought to take to make their state and their people better.
Yes. When it says true, what are we now going to be looking at? Are we going to be looking at true federalism in parties? Don't forget that the local government has also been given financial autonomy, and if this tax reform be said true, we are practically selling on it.
Yeah, definitely. We've been asking for true federalism. Now, if you don't have a fiscal federalism, the truth is that any other thing is in theory. If I say you are free and you still have to beg me for money for transport, then you are actually not free. Because in the process of you asking for money, you have to tell me where you want to go and what you want to do with the money. So I see it as a first step towards the real true federalism that we are demanding for. When the states can generate their own revenue, and at least you are sure of what you get, you can pay your salary, you can do some basic things, and then you can determine to a large extent what you share even from the federation.
And don't also forget the National Lottery Act that the Supreme Court also ruled on in December. That's another aspect of the game. Anyway, we are keeping our fingers crossed. Moving ahead, we want to discuss USSD codes may become inactive in 14 days over banks' 250 billion naira debt. Meanwhile, why are banks still refusing to pay the test codes? Because it's something that most Nigerians do so easily using their banks to buy recharge cards.
Well, we wouldn't know what the arrangement between them are, but we think that basically between the CBN and the NCC. And of course, even the Consumer Protection Council will need to come in to this matter because the consumers are involved. The truth is, are these bills being taken? The answer is yes. In fact, right now, even for failed USSD transaction, you pay the 6 naira 98 kobo.
Yes.
Because the money, the amount is taken before the transaction becomes successful. Which ordinarily I think should even have happened after the transaction. I should pay for a service that has been rendered. But right now, people are paying for services that are not being rendered. And yet, you are not making remittance to the right structure. So I think that the CBN, the NCC need to sit down and resolve this. The Minister of Finance may also need to get involved because what we are talking about is huge. If 1 million subscribers lose 6 naira 98 kobo per day, that is 6.98 million. And some do as much as 10 transactions or more in a day. So it means that so much money is embedded. Yes, some will look at it as 6 naira 98 kobo, but check across the 50 or 100 million people accounts where those things run. Even 1 naira on 100 million account is 100 million naira. So it calls for concern. But the regulators must sit down and do something. And like we keep saying, the platforms that are being used for online transactions need better monitoring to ensure performance and ensure diligence. Due diligence must be done by, of course, the regulators. You don't leave the vendors and the banks and because the people are involved. And their fight, they say when 2 elephants fight, is the grass that will suffer. So it bounces back to the masses in the end.
All right, thank you so much. Now let's talk houses. Vanguard says 21 million housing gap, 5 trillion naira needed for 2.7 million new houses annually for 10 years. However, unfortunately, if you read the story, is the people that already have houses that are still acquiring, even if the federal government builds billions of houses tomorrow, it's still the same people that have houses that will still acquire, and those that actually need this house who don't even have the wherewithal or the access to procure these houses.
Well, it boils down to one simple thing. Do we have records?
You have somebody, only one person having how many thousands of houses?
Do we have records? Do we keep the right records? And then if we keep the right records, what data are we speaking to? The reality is, sometimes when you say 21 million, we have not done a census since 1996, 2006. So we're talking of almost 20 years without an head count. So the question is, when you say 21 million houses, where are the houses required? When we build, are we actually building these houses where they are required? Some of the houses that are existing, are they actually being occupied? Do we have full capacity? So a lot of things are wrong with our records. And except we put the records right, we get the right data and pitch them appropriately, right decisions can never be taken. Because if you say, just because you need a house, you want to build a house. Somebody is on minimum wage and you are building a house for 70 million naira. How many years will it take somebody with 70,000 per month to pay for that house? So in the end, you have given these houses in the hand of, you have left it in the hand of the private sector or for money mongers who eventually, when they take a loan at 10% or thereabout to build a house at skyrocketed cost, how do you expect the civil servant to be able to do? In other climes, what we do, which we have done before, Lagos have what they call in the past low cost, medium cost, and high cost. And so when they are built across the nation, I think possibly that was the MPN, UPN era, those things are done. If you decide, okay, in Abuja, this is the number of medium cost we need, estate we need, this is the number of this, and perhaps you are giving it or taking it through the Federal Mortgage Bank, which has been there forever, or the National Housing Fund, or whichever structure government had in place. And then it's tied to the people who are contributing to these funds. Some of us have contributed and we don't know what has happened to the contribution. But it's just there.
It's just there.
So the idea therefore should be that, one, the project should be targeted. The baseline should be defined from the beginning. There should be, you should know who and who is getting the house before you even release funds from NHF or from the Federal Mortgage Bank to run those projects. Until those clear terms are defined, until you know the people and you define the process, the most likely issue is that we'll be deploying energy in the wrong direction.
All right, thank you so much. We're moving ahead. Let's look at the issue of you're in Abuja, of course. The Punch newspaper and the Nigerian Tribune captured it today. Gospel singer arrested with severe corps members head in Nasarawa. It's been a trending story since 2 days ago with gory videos and picture of the said gospel singer. I don't know if you came across it. What's happening?
Well, basically what it tells you is that it's not a function of title. People will remain people. Trust will remain trust. Fame, desire for fame, and the rest of that will remain the way they are. I think it was Anthony Joshua last week that was saying being a sportsman or an artist, a music artist, a musician, may not be sufficient to make you a billionaire. So which means beyond your skill, you needed to maybe invest the money and get things done. But some, of course, do not have the patience because investment cycle can take some long time. So they want to pass through shortcuts. And because there are girls, there are people, male, female, who run after sudden fame without investigation. You're supposed to investigate before you invest. Know the character of this person before you begin to walk and go around with them. People say, oh, we are security conscious, but a lot of time we are not safety conscious. And when we fail, and a lot of us have failed at the realm of safety, and that's why security become compromised.
But because this ritual killing has become, it has pervaded everywhere, including FCT, as we just saw. Now, what will you ascribe to this rising? Is it that is a case of societal dysfunction?
Well, did ritual killing start of recent? I think the answer is no.
Better speak.
It's been there for so long. We may not be able to determine whether it peaked or not because we don't have data for what happens in the 60s. Hold on, in the 60s, in the 70s, and in the 80s. Now you have social media. Now you have the phone. As of 1998, we have less than 50,000 phone lines in Nigeria. Right? Today, you have more than 10 million or 100 million phone lines, as the case may be. So reality is that information flow right now is not the same with what used to be. However, there has been a gradual decay, systemic decay. People are losing their value. People are losing their humanity. We are celebrating inanities. We are celebrating vanity across the globe. And that also is entering into the system. So people believe that until you ride a big car and you have a big house and you have you show off with your jet, you possibly have not arrived. So because they want to blow suddenly, and they have seen that, okay, others are blowing, then they want to follow the track. So it's a form of trend that it's on the rise. But it has always been there. It did not start now.
So one lastly, as a matter of curiosity, does ritual killing, how does it bring money for them? Like a colleague said that then why are they not as rich as Elon Musk or Bill Gates or even Jeff Bezos?
You know, when
it's true that it gives them money.
When we were talking at the beginning, I said when you talk about man, man is a finite, non-absolute, relative being. Man is not God. That's the practical reality. But some of the things we do when it comes to rituals and those systems, we are trying to play God. But because you cannot be God, you will not always get the result to that level. I know people in secondary school who then said they were getting talisman from England and tying something to their leg to play football. But they never played better than some of us who did not do anything. And I didn't see any of them make it to the under 16 team then, nor do they ever made it even to play for any club at all. So sometimes it's still a case of vanity. It's a case of wrong assurances. It's a case of directing your faith in the wrong place. And those are the practical reality. Where you need hard work, do your hard work. Then let the grace that has been provided support it for you. Somebody would always say, if you are meant to be in millions, if you are not meant to be in millions, even when you win lottery, let's wait for a few short time down the line. You will still discover that virtually everybody who have won 99 million, 100 million in lottery, within months, they go back to be poor because they have not built it structurally. So we need to strengthen our value. We need to strengthen our humanity. That's the way to go.
Thank you so much. As our take away from today's program, we need to build our values and strengthen our morality. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure having you on the program. And of course, I look forward to having you more on this program. Well, viewers, this is where we end today's show. Don't forget to join us same time, same station for another fresh edition of the program. My name is InsideNIGERIA, and I've had in company this Tuesday, Benedict Abole. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for watching. For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast.